Beat an egg into a goblet. Add 200 milliliters of premium champagne. This is a daily tonic for men. That day, Mike woke up and found, I'm going to be late. I called the company immediately, but unexpectedly, there is no answer over there. He didn't find out until he went out of the house. The whole road was empty. No one. He walked into the gas station doubtfully. The cashier was not even there, but the kettle in the room was boiling all the time. The man must not have gone far. At this time, he found that the bathroom door was locked, but there was no one inside. There is an open magazine on the ground. He was a little flustered. He broke into a house on the side of the road. Pipes spraying water, half-eaten breakfast, all indicate the owner of the house. It seems to disappear in an instant. He suddenly remembered. All this, is it related to the company's experiment? He hurried to the company at once. All the way. It's everywhere because the driver disappeared. And a runaway car. Come to the lab. He was immediately distributed around the world. The experimental bases in different cities called, but there is no exception. There was no response. Only then did he realize that, very likely, is the last person on Earth. He rushed to the radio station at the first time, recorded a segment. News of finding other survivors. On the radio. It's played 24 hours a day. On the billboard in the city. He left his phone number and address. Next days, he drove a police car around the city shouting, or make noise at night. But more than 10 days have passed. There is not a living person. He was in utter despair. He moved directly into the mansion of the richest man in the country. In the museum again. Many world-famous paintings have been moved in. Anyway, the whole world is his. He drove straight into the mall. First, I arranged an expensive suit for myself. He used an electric drill to pry open the shop. Taste those high-end snacks that you couldn't afford before. Even the ostrich sculpture in the mall. He also moved back home. Soon, his car has run out of space. He came straight to a train. That night, he's in the closet of the mansion. Found a pajama. He put it on by devious means. Maybe I've been single for too long. He looked at himself in the mirror. I think it's very enchanting. At this time, Mike didn't know. He is about to meet the world. The last woman. The man in women's pajamas is Mike. He is the last man on Earth. 3 months ago, the sun emitted a strange red light. The second day, all the people on the Earth have disappeared. The unprecedented loneliness made him break down. He began to play 2 roles. Play billiards with yourself. Some pieces of paper were brought and put downstairs. Pretend to listen to your speech. Last, he directly declared himself the president of the Earth. He was wearing pajamas, run into the former football stadium, and burst into the church with a shotgun. But I have searched every corner. No one was found alive. In desperation, Mike aimed the gun at himself. At this moment, an explosion sounded. Mike woke up with a start. He was carrying a large quantity of supplies. Found a new villa. Began to study the red light from the sun. Maybe it can bring people in the world. Change back again. At this time, there was a sound of footsteps outside the room. It's a beautiful woman. 3 months apart. Mike felt it again. Human temperature. The woman's name is Amy. She said that 2 weeks after the incident, I once saw a rotten corpse, so there must be other survivors in the world. Sure enough, the next day, there at the crossroads, 2 bodies were found. A man and a woman were there. There was a crash on the empty road. The 2 men decided to search separately. Mike came to a school. At this time, the sun began to beat again. Both of them felt dizzy at the same time. Mike goes to meet Amy immediately. Suddenly a truck rushed into the road. He quickly picked up his shotgun, but he was still 1 step ahead. Right now, Amy's voice came from the walkie-talkie. The man asked Mike to take him to meet Amy. Maybe I haven't seen a woman for too long. The man threw down his shotgun. 3 surviving humans. They hugged each other excitedly. The man's name is Paul. He happened to drown when the disaster happened. Amy was surprised to hear this because she was electrocuted and Mike was taking poison to commit suicide. It seems that because they are on the verge of death, that's why I escaped the great movement. Not long, Paul's joining made Mike feel the pressure because he is not only more handsome than himself, it's even more powerful. Sure enough, Amy became interested in Paul and Mike found that the sun was moving again. The Earth suddenly lost its gravity. 3 people who were just together instantly sucked into different spaces. After a few seconds, gravity returns to normal. Mike blamed himself very much. It turns out that government secrets are on Earth. A large number of power grids are arranged, trying to recharge an airplane in flight, but unexpectedly affected the fluctuations of the sun, thus causing the disaster. And recently, the sun is shaking more and more violently. There will definitely be a great movement soon. Then Paul proposed to blow up the power grid. Maybe we can stop the disaster. They immediately came to the explosive magazine, loaded a full truck. Before departure, Mike sees Amy and Paul talk and laugh together. My heart is very bad. At night, the 3 finally arrived near the giant power grid, but before Mike accidentally triggered the radiation button. Now, there is super strong radiation around 1 kilometer. Before Mike said he made a wireless remote control device. Maybe we can drive the explosive truck in remotely, but he just left on his front foot. Paul took advantage of the opportunity to enter, successfully captured Amy's heart. At this time, the explosive truck suddenly rushed towards the power grid. Mike decided to sacrifice himself, help them. He pressed the start button resolutely. After a loud explosion, Mike woke up on a beach. A beautiful star ring rose not far away. It blew up the power grid, did not stop the sun from moving. Instead, it was the explosion. Once again put Mike in a state of near death. Thus, the disaster was avoided once again. As for the last ring, many viewers think it is the ring of Jupiter and Mike. Because of the distortion of time and space, it was transmitted to Jupiter's moon. Maybe he knew it all along. Blowing up the power grid won't work. But in the end of loneliness and despair, Amy's change of heart completely lost his hope. So Mike left them heartlessly, chose to live alone.